I realized I felt I had this imposter syndrome, because while I was trying to do these incorporate 5 positive habits, I was ignoring this one sort of nasty, negative, bad habit that I felt was unbreakable. And that was my own daily drinking habit.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview inspiring and influential guests who are making their mark on the world and contributing to the greater good. Making your mark, big or small, is creating a legacy, and it's one of the proven ways we can age with energy and joy. Zestful Aging Podcast is my legacy. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker. Find out more at judybanker.com. And to find out more about this podcast, my web courses, and other offerings, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. And while you're there, sign up for my monthly email newsletter, The Zest, where you'll get behind-the-scenes looks at my interviews and other fun tidbits. Spring has definitely sprung, and I'm seeing little purple crocuses popping up in my neighborhood. And to celebrate the season, I'm taking $20 off of my popular Zestful Aging web course. You will learn the tried and true ways to add zest and vitality to your life, and it comes with a booklet I made just for the course. It's all based on science and my 30 years as a psychotherapist. So hop on over to zestfulaging.com for more information and use the code SPRING2021. You will get $20 off the course, and it is going to be a great way to start the season. Now back to the show. Well, I've got my little loyal Jack Russell Sparky right by my side, and if we reach freezing today in Syracuse, I will take him for a walk in the snow. We have a really great interview for you today. It is super timely. Since the pandemic, alcohol use is up significantly. No surprise there. One expert observed that even during the lockdown in the U.S., liquor stores remained open. Why? The emergency rooms were too busy dealing with COVID to also deal with people with alcohol withdrawal. The fear that would cause its own medical crisis. Today we're speaking with Molly Watts, the host and founder of Breaking the Bottle Legacy Project, which is dedicated to helping habit drinkers and adult children of alcoholics create a more peaceful relationship with alcohol. Welcome to the program, Molly.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Nicole. I was listening to you talk about legacy and realizing that in this instance, a legacy for me is very different and not necessarily the good kind. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about this.
Absolutely. I think it is so relevant. But, we're going to do a little, to use an overused word, pivot before we start talking about alcohol. And before we got on the mic, you told me about an incident that I think it would be really helpful for our people to know about and to share as a public service announcement. You had a horrible situation happen with your dad yesterday, a scam. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about it to warn our listeners how sophisticated these scams have become?
Yeah, it was really, really frightening. My dad is 93 and still lives independently, is very vital, golfs 3 times a week. He's really, for a 93-year-old, what I would consider to be very on it. But he got involved. He scarily enough doesn't really remember how they connected with him first, but these scammers got remote access to his desktop. They were texting him, calling him, and had convinced him that they had mistakenly given him $15,000 and they wanted him to give it back by transferring it to a bank in Thailand. So luckily, he has a very good relationship with his local bank here. They know him. They know me. They called me. They would not do it. But even with me there talking to him and then ultimately calling the phone number and talking to the scam artist myself, he wasn't, it took him a while to really believe me that it was not true. And, that I'm the one that was there to protect him, and that this man was not someone that was trying to help him. So it was really eye-opening. My dad is a former superintendent of schools, a very educated man. And to watch this unfold was scary, and the level of sophistication and the access that they had was very, very frightening.
Oh my goodness. It really is something we have to look out for.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, as I mentioned, had kind of roughly a similar situation where somebody said that they were the daughter that called my friend's dad and said that your granddaughter needs money.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to tell her mom. And can you go ahead and wire this money? Again, a very sophisticated businessman. He is not easy to fool. And it was so sophisticated. They had someone posing as an FBI agent and different phone numbers, and they answered the phone, FBI. I mean, it was so sophisticated that just like in your situation, he started the process of wiring the money.
Yeah. And what's really amazing to me is that, as I mentioned, I called this man, this scam artist was on the phone. I was absolutely incensed. And his confidence coming back at me, telling me that I was wrong, that I didn't know what I was talking about, that I was greedy, that I was trying to keep something that was it was amazing.
Wow.
Amazing in the very worst possible way. So, definitely for all of your listeners who have older parents who are still living, this age of the internet has made things so dangerous for them. And you just have to really be careful and be protective of them.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Molly.
Yeah.
And I know you're still shaken up. It's we don't think about going through our day like there are the bad actors, and they're smart and they're ruthless. We don't, we just do our thing and we go along, and we don't, I think, realize that there's a lot of underground stuff happening that we would just be horrified to hear. So, well, let's go ahead and shift gears. You have undertaken a new project. We talked, I'm going to say 1 or 2 years ago about aging, because you and I share the same space about really promoting healthy aging, understanding what healthy aging looks like. We had a lovely conversation. And now you've undertaken yet another project, which seems to me to be quite massive and involved and personal. Can you talk a little bit about Breaking the Bottle Legacy and what it is that you would like to accomplish?
Absolutely. So when we spoke, probably 2 years ago now, my podcast, Live Happier Longer, and the company behind it, Five for Life, was really inspired by my dad and watching my dad live this long life and live it with optimism and live it so successfully. And my purpose was really to help people just like you to be able to have that longer, happier life, and realizing that to do so, they actually needed to take actions and create habits. And so that was, it was inspired by watching him and wanting to have that lifestyle that, have that life that he's had. It was also inspired by wanting to avoid aging like my mom. And my mom had passed away at the age of 81 after 25 years of kind of slow and steady decline. But what I really didn't talk about much on that podcast and sort of wanted to ignore, or just at least not address, was the fact that she died of an alcoholic binge. And so in the whole process of doing Five for Life and really trying to create these positive habits in my life, which, was important to me, around the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, I realized I felt I had this imposter syndrome, because while I was trying to do these, incorporate 5 positive habits, I was ignoring this one sort of nasty, negative, bad habit that I felt was unbreakable. And that was my own daily drinking habit. And so along about the beginnings of 2019, I started to really focus my energy on changing that habit, and figured out the self-coaching model, understood how I was fueling my own desire, how I was using alcohol to try to numb away negative emotions, and really started working on it with using my own mind to create better thoughts and change my thinking about alcohol. Got very educated on the science of alcohol and understanding exactly what happens in the brain, both when you drink acutely and then over time. And all of it sort of resonated and culminated in, this idea that while everything I read was and learned certainly helped me as just a habit drinker, there isn't a lot of information or a lot of support for people that grew up in an alcoholic home and now find themselves drinking more than they want to. I never aligned or saw myself, I defined alcoholism by the way that my mother was with me. And so I knew I wasn't like that. So therefore I wasn't, I would have never gone to seek help from AA or anything like that. But the bottom line is I had a lot of anxiety, and I just sort of accepted that anxiety as the logical outcome of growing up in an alcoholic home and having a daily drinking habit. So anyway, that's where it all kind of started. And then this year during the pandemic, I've taken that study and that relationship even further and really come to a place where I no longer am worried about alcohol. I no longer drink on a daily basis. I no longer feel like I need to use alcohol to numb away emotions. And I certainly don't worry about whether or not I'm going to become my mother. And so I wanted to share that information. And I just know that there are people out there like myself who think they are handling their alcohol, but they, in the back of their minds, they just kind of have worry about this daily drinking habit and know that it's probably not what they want to be doing. It's not good for them. And also for fellow adult children of alcoholics who I know find it difficult to find that peaceful relationship.
Wow. A lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I'm curious because it sounds like this has been going on for a big chunk of your adulthood, that you were drinking every day, and we do things unconsciously, and some are better, some things are better than others.
Yeah.
What kind of pushed you over to say, wait a minute, I think something more is going on here, and I think it's time to take a hard look at it?
I think it was really, like I said, more so this just all of the enlightenment and learning that I had done through Five for Life, and learning about habit change and learning about how to create better habits made me assess, or made me, be able to open my eyes and look and actually come to the conclusion that potentially this habit of mine wasn't because I had some genetic over desire to drink, wasn't because I was a child of an alcoholic and it was just the natural outcome. It wasn't that these stories that I'd held on to for so long and these ideas that I continuously fed that into my brain, they were fueling the habit. And by simply changing those thoughts and creating different ones, I could change the habit. So it was understanding or really believing that I could do it, or there was hope that I could do it, and then working on it. Like I said, it wasn't a fast process because I had a lot of years of not only habit, but a lot of years growing up and stories that I had told myself about alcohol in the past that needed to be changed as well.
So what does that look like? You have this aha moment and you say, you know what? I am doing this podcast all about health. I know a lot about health. I know what I want my older years to look like my dad. I know what I want them not to look like. And then all of a sudden you kind of have this light bulb go off. Oops, this needs to be addressed. What do the first few days and weeks look like after your eyes are open to this habit?
Yeah, so there's two things in tandem. So first of all, learning and mastering this meta skill of managing your mind and creating and practicing thinking new thoughts, being able to look and see the thoughts that are creating these negative emotions and questioning them, questioning the thoughts, not just accepting them as true, not just believing them. So that whole practice of taking on, learning that skill of recognizing the thoughts that lead to the feelings that create the actions that get the results that I have in my life, that was happening on one side. On the other side, I was focused on, first of all, creating a drink plan. And I literally started not trying to reduce the amount of alcohol I was drinking, but simply planning it ahead of time with my logical thinking adult brain, quote unquote, so that I knew that what I was doing was something that was based in future and a forward thinking brain, as opposed to that primitive brain that's impulsive and looks to relieve pain and seeks reward and seeks pleasure. So first of all, it was just creating a plan and following the plan. Eventually that turned into reducing those number of drinks over each day. Then it included adding in alcohol-free days. Then it added in alcohol-free breaks. And like right now, it's Dryuary, it's January. And for the first time in my life, I'm taking a 31-day break. Not the first time since I've been pregnant, which was over 20 years ago. So first time that I'm taking a 31-day break from alcohol altogether. And, if you would have told me 2 years ago to try Dryuary, I would have said, no can.
No, thank you.
Yeah. No can.
Not for me.
Yeah. No can do. Not gonna, there's not going to be, I can't do that. And it's been really relatively very easy. I got to tell you, that whole episode last night with my dad yesterday did test me, did strain my, I definitely had a couple of thoughts of, oh, I'd love to have a glass of wine or I'd love to have a beer. And then I just, I looked at that thought and said, well, it doesn't solve the problem. It's actually not going to make sure that he doesn't do this again. That's not going to help. What will? And just redirected.
Hey, lovely listeners, I have something really special to share with you. I recently interviewed Dr. Elise Bailu, who is the founder of Mindfulness in May. Every May, thousands of people worldwide join the program featuring the world's best experts and build mental resilience through committing to 10 minutes of meditation per day, while also raising funds to address the world's most urgent global issues. Over the last 8 years, Mindful in May has taught over 40,000 people to meditate while raising $800,000 to bring clean, safe drinking water to the developing world. Well, I'm going to give out 5 free registrations for Mindful in May to the listeners of Zestful Aging who write the most descriptive and original 5-star review of Zestful Aging on whatever platform you use to listen. And after you rate the show, please copy and paste your review and send it to me at zestfulaging.com with instructions on how to contact you. The contest ends April 30th. And I'll be joining the program in May, and I can't wait. And please check out mindfulinmay.org. It's really special. Look for Elise Bailu's episode coming soon. Now, back to the show. So, you're really in my wheelhouse now. You might remember that I specialize in food and eating issues. And so a lot of this sounds very similar to people who numb their feelings by either overeating or restricting or doing all kinds of funky things with exercise and all of this. And so one of the things that I do with my clients is, okay, so if you're not going to binge or you're not going to purge or you're not going to go to the gym compulsively, what's going to help you with your feelings? Because the feelings aren't going to disappear just because you stop, medicating them.
Right.
So now what's left, you find yourself without, it's almost like a little blankie, right? It's like your little friend you can rely on. So what do you do now that you've relied on that, whatever it is, glass of wine, and it does help. It just has consequences, right? So what do you replace it with?
Yeah, so that's a great point. So one of the things that is very interesting about alcohol and about the science of alcohol, and you're absolutely right that it very much aligns with binge eating or any other thing that we do to, people compulsively gamble, they overshot, exactly. Anything that people are using to numb away emotion. But with alcohol specifically, what's very interesting about the science of alcohol and the chemistry of alcohol, and it's one of the things that has helped me change that habit, is that it is a depressant, right? And so in very small amounts, you get that, and at very low levels, you get a positive experience in terms of, that's where we get that first drink. It gets that, a relaxing feeling and it numbs away, right? But the problem is that it's altering your brain chemistry, and with whatever goes down must come back up, right? And so with alcohol specifically, when alcohol starts to dissipate from your system, you get a reflex active in your neurotransmitters of anxiety actually increasing afterwards.
So we would call that a rebound effect.
Right, exactly. And so that's the knowledge of that has helped me, right? Because when I tell myself, oh, this glass of wine, and if it's just one glass, that rebound effect is going to be almost imperceptible. So one glass is probably is okay, right? You're not going to notice too much. The problem is that alcohol also releases dopamine in the brain. And so when you drink it, you have this desire to want to drink another one. That's, one of the hazards of it.
I see, because it's reinforcing. It's that felt good. I want more.
Exactly. So it does require, that's why I think, planning ahead is one of the best tools. But like I said, just the simple knowledge for me was very transformative, and understanding that what the temporary soothing effect that I feel is very temporary and fleeting, and to actually solve and help a feeling change, I need to change my thoughts. So while I could focus on the stress and the terror of this episode with my father, what's going to help me feel differently is focusing on the solutions and what I can do to help him, and being grateful that the people at the bank were so reactive and so protective. And so, you know what I mean? It's a matter of managing my thoughts, managing my mind, so that I'm not spinning around and ruminating on the things that are going to make me feel worse, and realizing that I have the power to do that. I have the capacity to change my brain's direction. And that's beautiful. Yeah. So that's really...
So I'm curious, because of what we both know about aging and wisdom, some might call it. Do you think that this realization for you could have come in your 20s or 30s, or is this something that really had to come now as a woman with some experience under her belt, with some, some life lessons and some clarity that only really comes with age?
That's a great question. That's a great question, Nicole. I really wish that I had understood this process much earlier in my life. I feel like people can learn this skill of, like I said, it is a meta skill, because much like you with binge eating, it's the same kind of approach, right? I mean, not focusing on the action of drinking, not focusing on the action, just stopping it, willpowering it, clenching your fists, but backing up to the thoughts and the feelings that are leading you to do it. And so I do believe that had I understood it, it's one of the things that I think is something we should be focusing more in school, is teaching kids and teaching people that they have the power to manage their brains. And it really is how you change your life. It's how you sculpt your life, and just like we've talked about aging with optimism, it really comes down to where you're going to put your area of emphasis and your focus, how you're going to perceive the world. And you can either choose to focus on the sides that are negative, or you can choose to focus on the positive sides of aging. And how you do that is everything. With any of all of this, and one of the reasons that working on your health and your habits and moving and continuing to learn is, whenever you're not at your physical best, it is challenging to manage your mind. I mean, it becomes more and more challenging, right? So there are small things that you can do every day. That's where the healthy habits of making sure you're getting enough exercise, making sure you're seeing people, and keeping yourself healthy as possible in that respect is going to help you be a better mind manager. It's just simply that, it's that easy.
It seems to me that undertaking this massive transformation in your life would have a ripple effect in your relationships, in your family, in maybe even your work. Have you noticed different kinds of changes that you didn't expect by addressing your drinking?
100%. Because again, if you would have asked people around me, no one would have said, they would have never known or thought that I had a problem with alcohol, because it's not like I got altered or intoxicated. I was I just drank 3 to 4 drinks every night, and the fact of the matter is that while the changes externally may not be as noticeable to people, what's changed internally for me, and definitely just in terms of my overall communication, my relationships, my time, my own personal joy of living has increased exponentially.
It's so interesting. One of the descriptions that I use sometimes with disordered eating and over exercising, it feels like it's your best friend, but it's a backstabbing friend. So you think it's going to be like helpful. It feels helpful, and in some senses it is helpful, but the help lasts for about 20 minutes, at least in terms of some of the food and eating behaviors, and then you're left with consequences and more problems than you started with. But that's what it sounds like. It wasn't a huge glaring problem, but it was enough of a problem that it was stealing joy from your life and really distracting you from maybe communicating more clearly, or maybe feeling closer to the people in your world.
Yeah, and I think that that's one of the issues with alcohol that is unclear to people is, how much is good for you, how much is bad for you. And we get a lot of mixed messages. And so a lot of people who are drinking a few drinks a night don't think there is a problem. They don't understand some of the physical side effects that it's probably having on them. Lack of sleep deprivation is huge. Fatty liver disease, things that are, and just liver function in general. Your skin dries out. And like I said, this level of anxiety that they've probably just they just think is normal. And so definitely for alcohol, I don't know that I ever thought of it as like a friend, because I kind of like I said, worried about it all the time, kind of knew in my heart of hearts that that what I was doing wasn't healthy.
I see. Yeah.
But at the same time felt completely unable to change it. Didn't think I could, just didn't, just couldn't imagine a life where I wasn't drinking all the time, or it wasn't, just where having a glass of wine or a beer at night wasn't a part of it. And I'm not, this is not my podcast is not a recovery podcast. It's not about addiction, and it is not for people who are physically dependent on alcohol, but it's also not for sobriety. I am not completely alcohol free, but I do believe that people need to make mindful decisions about alcohol. And when
that's the word that came to mind. Yeah.
When you do that, I don't find it being, there's some sobriety podcasts or alcohol free podcasts that kind of make it sound as though having to make decisions around alcohol all the time creates decision fatigue. And I find it to be absolutely the opposite. I believe that I feel empowered. I don't need to worry. I know the science. I understand what's going on. And I am completely at ease with wanting to plan and enjoy a glass of wine with a great steak dinner. And that is just totally fine. And it is 100% fine for me. And so that's really what, but I also want to make sure that I'm not using it. I don't use it on a daily basis. I don't want to, again, use it to try to numb away negative emotions. And so it's, it isn't taxing for me.
In charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's empowering.
That's so interesting. And I love the way that you talk about it in a non-pathologizing way. It's a bad habit. It's a habit that's not useful. It's not healthy. So how can you use your wise mind to tinker with it and to be in charge? And it's just a very sort of almost matter of fact, like, yep, this is how it goes. This is what it's like, but not like, oh, you're so bad and you've slipped. And and there, I don't hear any shame.
No, well, there's a lot of rhetoric about alcohol use, especially the leading recovery tenets that have been around forever with AA. Kind of lead people to believe that you're either in control of alcohol or you are not, and you are sick, broken. All of these types of feelings.
Powerless, which doesn't really fit for many women.
No,
they don't.
No,
they're not really into that.
Never fit for my mother. My mom was, like I said, went to rehab 4 different times. She lived to be 81, and obviously never. She could never buy into the tenet that she was powerless, and it never resonated with her, and she never was successful in changing her habits. Changing her dependence. It's not something that has resonated for me. Never, the idea that I was powerless over it didn't sit well. And I also, the idea that I never could drink again has never resonated with me. So I didn't want to approach it from that direction.
So Breaking the Bottle Legacy Project has a lot of different arms. So you have a book, a podcast. Tell us a little bit more about your offerings.
Well, I'm in the process of finishing my book. So the launch date is supposed to be May of 21, where it will go on Amazon and Kindle Direct. And so that's what's happening with the book. I do have the Breaking the Bottle Legacy podcast, and would love people to find us and subscribe and join me there. I also have Breaking the Bottle Legacy, a group on Facebook. And so it is all about changing your relationship with alcohol and creating this new peaceful relationship, no matter what that looks like. No, no hard set rules, no ultimatums, but just
no rigidity.
Yeah, some support and education, I hope, to help people understand. I on my website, which is www.mollywatts.com, people can go and grab a free report that is Alcohol Truths, How Much is Safe, and really talks about addressing the 3 areas of health that I think are important: the physical, social health, and financial health. So,
well, boy, that's a lot to offer. And I'm guessing you're on social as well. And do you have a Facebook handle?
Just Facebook page is Breaking the Bottle Legacy. So, yep. And I'm Molly Watts, author. You can look for me there as well. So, yeah.
Great. Molly, I am so glad that we got a chance to talk today. I really admire your courage of coming out and saying, okay, it's one thing to be behind the mic and talk about health, but it's another thing to say, listen, I've been dealing with something and it's been really hard. And, that requires a whole different level of honesty and vulnerability. So I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Nicole. It's actually, like I said, it's a joy. It's, I think for myself, it feels like probably this was the true purpose of my life that I just wanted to ignore because I didn't want to have to tackle it. But, as with all things that are challenging, when you are able to do it and show yourself that you can, hopefully that enables you to help more people. And that's what my goal is, for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Hey everyone, I wanted to tell you about a powerful new tool that supports your mental and emotional health in what are extremely trying times. And you may remember that I've been a psychotherapist for 30 years, and I'm always a little suspicious of products that claim to help us feel less anxious, depressed, or worried. But then I was introduced to a new kind of app called Cope Notes, and I have become a big fan. Cope Notes was developed by a guy who spent a lot of his life trying to figure out what might help support him through his own weekly psychotherapy sessions. Cope Notes is an app that gives you random texts through the day to break through some of the negative messages that might be repeating in your head. It's well researched and has been adopted by many mental health facilities. I highly recommend it. I think we can all use a little support right now. So check out copenotes.com/zestful. I will receive a small portion of those proceeds. And I'd love to hear your feedback about how it works for you. Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.